Chapter 2, The Break-In. The following account of the break-in by the United States Postal Service is accurate because I was present during this ordeal. The Postal Service knocked in our front door and living room door with battering rams with guns drawn. Upon intrusion into our home, the armed postal agents proceeded through the living room to the master bedroom, located on the rear of the first floor where I was sleeping. One of the unknown postal agents woke me up by placing the tip of his loaded gun to my head. I woke up screaming at the sight of armed postal agents surrounding the bed. The Jane Doe postal agent calmed me down and told me that they had a search warrant to search the premises. At about this time, Frank arrived on the scene. Frank was outside moving his car to another parking spot when he heard the commotion. The postal inspector in charge of the operation asked Frank some kind of routine questions. Frank was more worried about my well-being than the busted-in doors. I was still visibly shaken at what just happened. Then the postal inspector ordered Frank to empty his pockets and told him that he wasn't going to be arrested, and some personal items were confiscated, which the Jane Doe postal agent logged in on the inventory sheets. Even though Frank didn't interfere with the search of the premises, the postal inspector still handcuffed Frank's hands behind him. I was enraged when I saw this, and I told the postal agents, Frank didn't do anything wrong, then why are you treating him like a criminal? And I also yelled out loud, he is innocent until proven guilty. Then one of the unknown postal agents told me that if I didn't shut up, they were going to handcuff me too. Again, the Jane Doe postal agent intervened and calmed me down by telling me that they won't be there too long, and when they're done searching, Frank will be unhandcuffed. At about this time, the police showed up. One of the officers stood guard at the front door while the search continued. Frank sat quietly on the living room sofa, with his hands cuffed behind him and not in front of him. Frank only spoke if one of the unknown postal agents asked him a question about the items that they were seizing. At about 85 minutes into the search, the postal inspector seemed frustrated because he couldn't find the items that were listed on the affidavit of the search warrant. The searchers kept asking Frank, where is the computer hidden? Frank told them he didn't have a computer. This is about the time that they started taking items that were in plain view, that were not on the affidavit of the search warrant. The postal inspector and the other unknown postal agents continued to explore the premises for over 3 hours. The searchers even went back into our master bedroom, which we consider our zone of privacy, and rummaged and ransacked every inch of the room, leaving a big mess. Even though the postal agents searched the premises with a fine-tooth comb, all the items that were seized were taken from the living room, where Frank sat handcuffed. Besides the 22 items seized, the searchers confiscated Frank's personal papers, files, and effects. The affidavit of the search warrant stated that anything in Frank's last name on it was not to be seized. Instead, the searchers took 8 years of personal files, which included credit card bills and other bills, which Frank was currently paying. It took a postal delivery truck to hold all the items and personal property that they seized from our home. The search of the premises started at around 8 a.m. and concluded at 12:30 p.m. At this time, Frank was unhandcuffed and was taken to the postal headquarters to be booked. After the booking process was complete, Frank spent about 6 hours doing handwriting exemplars, and the postal inspector drove Frank home and told him that he would pick him up in a few days to finish the handwriting exemplars. The postal inspector picked Frank up to finish the handwriting exemplars, which took about 3 hours to complete. During this ordeal, the postal inspector and the other unknown postal agents treated Frank with indifference. This was uncalled for, since Frank cooperated with them 100%. The following is my interpretation of what happened. The searchers used excessive force to execute the search of our premises. By knocking in both doors with guns drawn to show authority, this could have been avoided because they saw Frank leave to move his car. Frank's freedom was taken away from him because he was handcuffed on the sofa for over 4 hours and wasn't free to move about. This incident will be burned in our memory forever because of the harsh treatment that we received at the hands of the postal inspector and the other unknown postal agents on that September day in 1996. After a lengthy investigation, Frank was sentenced on October 28, 1997 to 12 to 14 months. Frank threw himself on the mercy of the court. The probation department recognized Frank's unusual circumstances and recommended a downward departure, which was denied. Finally, Frank and I feel that our Fourth Amendment rights were violated. If a reasonable person wouldn't have wanted to be treated the way Frank and I were treated by the postal inspector and the unknown postal agents, then what happened to us must be unreasonable.